Okay, so I'm gonna try and break this down for you guys in like 5 minutes.
We can do it.
Less than 5 minutes.
2015 is the first time I interviewed Dyer. We had a conversation in regards to the Beware program. The Beware program was essentially collecting data on social media and spying on different activists, specifically anyone in the Black Lives Matter movement, because that's when this was like the hype and going on, right? So I sit down, I interview Dyer, we have a conversation. And you know, he was open with me, he spoke with me, and that program ended up getting shut down, thankfully, by
God.
so many amazing, wonderful community activists that were against it, right? So then we go fast forward a few years till last year. This was the second time I interviewed Dyer. So I go, I'm engaging with him, right? So there's a community meeting. It was for community, it was trying to hold police accountable, right, in our community. So Dyer was there, a whole bunch of activists were sitting around this table, and it was a very heated, like, Dyer was bright red, right, the whole time. Like, it was just, like, uncomfortable to be in the room, right?
Okay.
And so we're going back and forth about safety and this and that, and it was this was a part of a statewide initiative to get community and police relations on better terms, right? Because it was huge issues going on with community and policing, right?
Okay.
So statewide initiative, Dyer agreed to 6 meetings. This was the 6th one. We're all in the room. It's heated. We're going back and forth. And, you know, it gets to my turn where I ask a question, you know, and I'm like, what is Fresno PD doing in regards to mental health? How do you address mental health within the community? Because up to 80% or maybe even 90% of their phone calls that they get daily are due to mental health crises, right? So it's like, how are you dealing with mental health in the community? And then how are you dealing with it within your own, you know, within the PD force itself?
Good question.
Because you guys are dealing with the most, right? I had a kind of relationship where I wasn't fully on the police side. I didn't know where to stand. But when I'm working with foster youth and I'm dealing with clients who are literally trying to kill themselves every half an hour, I'm not going to call their neighbors. I'm not going to call, you know, their parents who don't want nothing to do with them. I'm calling the cops, right? And they're
ambulance.
I sit there and I'm looking at Dyer and I'm like, I want to thank you because one of your officers actually helped me catch a child predator who's trying to traffic one of my clients. Officer Omar. I have so much respect for him, and I was like, I want to thank you for that, right? Because there is somewhat of a level of need when it comes to our community and its safety and the people within it, and who's responsible for that, right? I'm sorry, I know we're running out of time here, okay?
Yeah.
But you know, so I'm sitting there and I'm thanking him. He's like calming down a little bit. So I was like, look, let me ask you a question. I was like, you don't have to answer it. Just, I'm going to ask it. I'm going to put it on the table. Have you yourself ever sought mental health resources?
This is to Dyer. You asked Dyer this.
Right.
You asked him if he's ever sought.
Yes, in your time
That's
on
a good
PD.
idea because all those officers they're traumatized too.
They see the worst of the worst.
It's the worst.
They see the worst of the worst.
Yes.
How do they process it? You can't just go home and take it off. It sticks on to you. Right, Kayla?
Right.
Yes.
So then what did he say?
So he told me that there was a time on, you know, where a colleague of his committed suicide outside of his house.
Oh my gosh.
And this is a very controversial moment, but you know, that's what it was ruled as, was a suicide outside his house. Some community activists say Dyer shot him, killed him himself.
Are you serious?
Some people say that. But what's on the books is that the man killed himself outside of his house, right? So Dyer said that he was highly traumatized from this event. And he opened up and he was honest, right? He was vulnerable in that moment, sharing with me that yes, he had indeed sought services. And you know, it was something that he works on, he processed, and the support for the officers, and they're working on in their community. So when it comes down to me seeing Dyer as CMAC,
when was this?
For the GV Wire debate, it was like early January, right? So he comes out and we know each other. We've had personal, deep conversations about the city, about personal stuff. You know, and he looks at me and he's just like, hey, good to see you, you know? And then and I'm like, yeah, good to see you, man. I'm just trying to get this interview, this and that. And the thing is Dyer, I feel like for this entire campaign, like it or not, you know, he came at this city and was like, yo, one Fresno. I'm gonna do this thing right in the middle of this entire city at what's the Manchester Mall, right? He's like, let's break it down. He was met with so much like pushback that this dude for the rest of his campaign has been in fight or flight mode. So that man ran out the back door of CMAC. He did not speak to me. And that's why we've seen him run on 4 other panels, right? He has not showed up for 4 separate occasions.
Oh, it's been 4 times.
4.
I thought it was just
including my interview. My interview that I was supposed to get with him is 1 out of the 4. That this man, and I truly believe he's in that fight or flight mode. He's dealing with that trauma. And you know what? You know, it's sad. It's sad. And for me personally, I've reached out for him and I still have, you know, it's an open offer. Sit down. Let's talk about what the community wants to know.
Right, but you're going to ask him the tough questions.
And I
though.
will. But I'm not going to come at him in a way that is disrespectful.
Right, that's good.
Right.
I'm not going to come at him in a
good.
way that's going to ostracise him.
Right.
In a respectful,
Right,
let's have a conversation.
What do you expect him to say when you ask him questions like, tell us about that affair that you had when you were, you know, how did that affect maybe your judgment? And I mean, those are tough questions.
It might be some R. Kelly situation. I don't know, man. I don't know, but I'm ready for it, bro. Like, let's have a conversation,
Right, honesty
man.
is what we need in Fresno.
That's it. That's it. That's what the community wants. Like, we want some honest conversations. That's it.
And that's why we love you, Kayla, because you're not afraid to ask those deep, tough questions to get the truth.
Yeah, and